Welcome to Kickin' with the Rickens, redefining retirement. Gerry Ricken and Heidi Ricken Provost want to help you retire with purpose and live with joy. Find more information, including how to reach the team, in today's show notes. Now, Kickin' with the Rickens, powered by Ricken Financial.
Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for listening to Kickin' with the Rickens podcast. We are here with retirement planner Heidi Ricken Provost and licensed insurance professional Gerry Ricken. My name is Mark Owens. We invite you to get more at rickenfinancial.com. You can get all the information here in the show notes. Thanks again for subscribing. Now, let's get to the show. I should say international traveler Gerry Ricken. How you doing this weekend?
I'm doing fabulous, Mark. How about you?
Where's your head at? Because I know you just had a bucket list trip to see the family. Tell me about it.
Well, you know, my grandpa immigrated to the United States in 1913. He and his older brother, Uncle Bill, were the only two of their family of 18 children that immigrated to the United States. The rest of them stayed in Germany. So most of my cousins in the world on the Ricken side are in Germany. So we got invited to my cousin Gerhard and his wife Helga's 50th wedding anniversary. So we said, what the heck? We got invited. Let's go. So Sheila and I went over the pond, flew over the pond and had some great time. We stayed with my cousin Wolfgang and his wife Simone and their two little darling children. And then, we had a little fun in Frankfurt, picked up my cousin Bishop Ricken from Green Bay and his sister Carol. And they rode with us, Sheila and I, and we drove up towards the North Sea to visit the rest of our family. And Bishop Ricken celebrated the Mass for the 50th wedding anniversary. We had a tremendous party afterwards that actually lasted, and we left at 2:45 a.m. And the Germans were still partying. So we had just a great time. It was a lot of fun.
You got to be careful. Those international pints, they're a little thick. They'll get you if you're not ready.
Oh, they certainly will. They certainly will. But there were lots of pints and lots of schnapps. They love their schnapps. And it was amazing. I mean, it was a huge wedding celebration. So we had Mass, and then we went straight into a reception, then a sit down dinner, and then dancing, and then at midnight more food came out.
Yeah,
and there was liquids flowing throughout the evening. So it was a lot of fun.
We talked about it before. My older brother lives in Ireland, just north of Dublin, in a little town called Monaghan. So I'm very lucky and blessed to be able to travel to go see him every year. And I love the international travel. I love to go in to experience different towns and different cultures. But what was the biggest, I guess you could say, culture shock that kind of surprised you from going to visit the old country, if you will, the family in Germany?
Well, it really wasn't a surprise this time because we've been there to visit family on several occasions. But one of the most unique things is their breakfast. When we travel, we visit and stay with our family. So we engulf ourselves in their culture. We live their culture every day. But in their homes, there's a door to each room. And when you walk through that door, the door goes closed. It doesn't stay open. So that was one just unique thing that I've always thought fascinating. The other thing is, breakfast is so much different than in the United States. When we think of breakfast in the United States, we think of bacon, eggs, sausage, pancakes, waffles. Breakfast there are rolls that you cut in half, spread butter or spread brie on them, then put a piece of cheese. It's cold cuts, cheese or like a salami.
Yeah.
And then you eat that. That's what breakfast is. So it's so much different. But you don't put the cheese and the meat on the same piece of bread. They're separate.
And you got to respect that culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I noticed too, especially internationally, and again, I'm making the weird comparison between Germany and Ireland. I know it's not the same, but just trying to add into the conversation, if you will. One thing that I noticed is that they love Americans, because sometimes you don't really realize, do they like us? Do they hate us? Or are they overwhelmed by us? Are they burned out? Do they have America fatigue? There's so much news and whatever you want to say about this country, it shapes the entire world. So I'm always getting a little nervous about going over there when I see Sam. And I'm like, okay, how are they going to feel about us now? But they love Americans. And more than that, they love our money. They love our tourist dollars. In Germany, what's the general feeling about Americans?
Oh, they love us. They absolutely love us. I mean, our family just couldn't wait for us to show up and spend time with us. And wherever we went, they're like, oh, the Americans are here. And all their neighbors were embracing us. And it was just so fabulous. And I will tell you, there's some different cultures there too. When the night before their wedding anniversary, we were there, and the neighbors came over and they decorated their home for their 50th wedding anniversary. And when I say decorated their home, it was fresh greenery, similar to what we do use garland for in the United States for Christmas time.
Yeah.
It went all the way around their house, up over their the archway of their entryway. Then they had signs in the yard with their picture with the 50th wedding anniversary with green all the way around them. They had poles leading up to their driveway with greenery on it and flowers, and it was just fabulous. So my job that night, Mark, was I had the schnapps bucket, and I was walking around with schnapps because it was a little chilly. It was very chilly actually, and it was kind of rainy. So imagine rain, wind, and 42 degrees.
No.
So just not a pleasurable thing, but everybody was filled with joy, and they were having a great time celebrating by decorating their home.
That's like one of your favorite words right there, joy. We're going to talk about the purpose approach here in just a couple seconds, because the mission statement from the team at Ricken Financial is to retire with purpose and live with joy. And it sounds like your heart is full after spending some time with the family. But how about your head? I know as we get older, Gerry, that jet lag takes a little bit longer to recover from. How you feeling?
Well, the first 3 days after returning back, I've woken up about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, ready for the day. So the evenings get a little short. So I'm trying to push myself to stay up in the evening so I can actually wake up at a reasonable time and not wake up, before most people go to bed.
Well, you get more work done before people even get up.
Absolutely.
Try to get back on your sleep schedule.
It's awesome. But I need to get back on my sleep habit.
We invite you to meet Heidi Ricken Provost, Gerry Ricken, the entire team at Ricken Financial when you visit rickenfinancial.com, RICKEN, rickenfinancial.com from the homepage. You can schedule that initial no-cost, no-obligation consultation, or you can call it anytime this weekend, 314-207-6211. Let's talk about it, Gerry. The purpose approach. It's something you offer exclusively from Ricken Financial. Tell me about it.
Mark, a lot of people worry about retirement. And when they worry about retirement, they always think about money. And we've realized over the years that the most important thing they can start with is, what is their purpose going to be when they walk out the door for the last time? Because you've spent 30, 40, 50 years working and contributing through work. And that really truly does feed your soul. And if it doesn't, we need to talk about that too. And we need to get you a different career path, or at least a different environment. But we spend a lot of our time during our working years at work, and we're earning, and we're putting away in our 401ks, and we're doing the things that paying off our mortgages, we're raising our kids, we're doing all those things. And that all provides a purpose to us. But when you take your box and you close the door for the last time at work, and you walk into this thing called retirement, what are you going to do to feed your soul?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have a plan, don't walk out yet. You have to have a plan, because there's a lot of depression in the world when retirees don't have a plan. There are disagreements with your spouse, and there's a lot of gray divorce out there that happens, unfortunately. People get divorced after they retire because they just don't have a purpose anymore. We want you to have a purpose. We want you to live with joy. We want you to actually benefit from all those years of working and building your retirement nest egg. Now, how are you going to spend that? How are you going to spend your time? How are you going to spend your time either individually or with your spouse if you're married, or with your grandkids, with your kids? Are you going to travel? Do you have hobbies? If you don't have any of that lined out yet, we need to have a conversation. And we start every conversation with that. And interestingly enough, some people come in and they just say, hey, here's what we're planning on doing. We're going to travel. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. I'm going to get back into woodworking. I haven't done that. I'm going to play more golf. We've already got it set up. We've got friends to see. They know what's going to feed their soul. Yeah. Some people come in and say, I really don't know where I'm going to do. And those are the people we worry about, because we want to actually help you develop a purpose. Develop something that feeds your soul, because life is too short to be unhappy. We want you to be happy. We want you to be joyful. So that's what the beginning of the purpose approach is. Then we get into all the good stuff, all the things that make that purpose a reality. And that is developing an income plan, making sure that as long as you have blood pressure, you have income. We think that's important. Then we look at your risk tolerance. Are you investing the way you want to invest? Then we look at your taxation. And this is the most important thing that you need to look at, because it isn't really about the rates of return. It's about the rate of income back in your pocket. Do you want the IRS to be your largest beneficiary, or do you want to be the largest beneficiary of your money? We want your money to work for you. We look at things like life insurance and is there a need for life insurance death benefit, or is there a need for living benefits? There's some very tremendous tax opportunities out there with life insurance as well. We look at health insurance, long-term care needs. How do you want to be treated? How do you want to be cared for in the event you need help later on in life? Then we look at estate planning. What do you want to leave behind and how do you want to structure that? Those are the most important things that we look at after we figure out what's going to feed your soul.
It's the Purpose Approach, available exclusively from the team at Ricken Financial. Retire with purpose, live with joy. So, Gerry Ricken, let's talk about some of these retirement acronyms. And we talk about them every week here on Kicking with Rickens, but maybe we need to take a step back and really define what some of these mean. And let's start with a very common conversation we have. IRAs, Roth IRAs. What does this mean for my financial future?
We are very guilty in this environment of using acronyms, and we really don't realize we use acronyms that much until we sit back and listen to some of our podcasts or listen to each other speak.
That's true.
And when we're in front of clients, we're in front of prospects, we're in front of doing seminars, we try to just not use those acronyms. Or if we do, we stop and explain what they are. So it's all about understanding and education. So that we love to educate people at Ricken Financial. So let's just get into a few definitions and a few things that you may know and you may not know.
Right.
And it's okay if you don't know. And people just are afraid to ask questions sometimes. So we like to just explain things in very common, simple terms. So let's talk about IRAs. There are lots of different kinds of IRAs. There are traditional IRAs. There are rollover IRAs. There are inherited IRAs. There's a SEP IRA, a simple IRA, a Roth IRA, an inherited Roth. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But an IRA is an individual retirement account arrangement, actually, individual retirement arrangement. And a traditional IRA is a retirement plan, it's a retirement account. I hate using the word retirement plan because a retirement plan is something completely different. Mm-hmm. We talked about that with the Purpose Approach. The retirement plan encompasses everything. This is a retirement account. And the retirement account in a traditional IRA is you put money into your account and you get a tax deduction. You don't pay tax on that money. You get a tax deduction that year. Then it grows, tax deferred, and you never pay tax on that money or the growth on that money until you take money out. And if you wait until you're age 59 and a half to take money out, you will not pay a tax penalty on that. If you take money out of an IRA before 59 and a half, you will actually pay a 10% penalty on the amount that you withdraw. Now, that 10% is in addition to the ordinary income tax you will pay on that withdrawal. So we always encourage people, if you don't need to touch that money, please do not touch it until after the age 59 and a half, because we all believe in paying our fair share in taxes, but no more than our fair share in taxes.
Amen.
And we also believe that we can structure our tax affairs within the confines of the Internal Revenue Code to save in taxes. And that's what we do every day here at Ricken Financial. So that's what a traditional IRA is. And a traditional IRA is the same as a SEP IRA, as a simple IRA, as a rollover IRA. They're different kinds of IRAs. Some of them are provided by employers. Some of them are self-employed people. Some of them have created because they rolled over. A rollover IRA simply says we rolled money from a 401k, a different retirement account, into this account. So it wasn't an IRA, but it was also tax deferred, had the same tax structure as an IRA. So it was just rolled over. That just means it was transferred from one account to another. It kept the same tax structure, but it just changed its name. It changed its name.
SEP,
go ahead.
Simple, and rollover are all essentially the same thing under the same umbrella. There's a little bit of differences between each one, but they're all essentially the same thing.
They're all essentially the same. They're taxed the same way. And that's what you really need to understand.
Okay.
Is the taxation of everything, because it isn't what you earn, it's what you keep.
Amen.
At the end of the day. And we want you to keep more. And to keep more, you have to reduce your taxes. and you can reduce your taxes in a myriad of different ways. So that is really, in a nutshell, what all of those IRAs really mean. And when I say what they mean from a tax perspective. And when we think about a 401k, a 403b, a 457, a 401a, all the 400s, they're named after the code in the IRS, the IRS tax code, the 400 section. That's where all these numbers come from. So that people don't understand. What's a 401k? Well, 401k is the tax code that you can pull up the IRS tax codes, look under 401 parenthesis K, and you can read what that is. Mm-hmm. Basically, it is another retirement account that is provided by an employer. An employer can either match or decide not to match any contributions you put into it, but it is treated the same way. A traditional 401k is treated the same way as an IRA from a tax perspective, if it's traditional. And when I say it's traditional, we'll get into what is not traditional. But that goes for a 403b, a 457 plan, any of those 400s that you hear about. They are set up so that you put pre-tax money in, so you don't pay tax on the money you put in. It grows tax deferred. When you receive the money at the end of the day and pull money out, that's when it becomes taxable at ordinary income rates, just the same way as an IRA. There are lots of differences on how much you can contribute to an IRA versus a 401k. There are income limitations on contributing to IRAs if you have a 401k. So there are all kinds of different rules out there that you need to understand. And there are also catch up. And I'm not talking about the condiment. I'm talking about catching up at a certain age 50 or above. You can put more into these accounts than if you were under that age. To really, later on in life, maybe you paid your mortgages off, the kids are away and they're off the payroll. Now you've got more money, and that's the concept. You have more money in your paycheck. So why not allow you to catch up for the years that you couldn't maybe contribute 100% into your 401k or into an IRA. So that's where we look at, what's happening with 401k. So that 400 series, people they just say, oh, it's a 401k. And people really sometimes don't understand what that is.
Yeah.
Then we get into the world of Roth. And that's my favorite world to get into, Mark, because Roth allows you to put after-tax money into the account. It grows and grows and grows, tax-free. And when you withdraw the funds, provided the account has been open for 5 years and you're over the age 59 and a half, you can withdraw all of that money, the principal and the growth, tax-free. And there's no better amount of money in retirement than tax-free money, unless it's just free money. Somebody gives you $1 on the street, I'll take it every day. But that's really where we look at Roth. Roth provides you an opportunity to live tax-free in retirement.
But what's the catch? That almost sounds too good to be true. Roth is after-tax money that grows tax-free, and then after the age of 59 and a half, you can withdraw it tax-free. What's the catch, Gerry Ricken?
You pay the tax up front. So you pay the tax, but you pay the tax up front. You don't pay the tax on all the built-in gain, as opposed to not Roth, traditional IRA or 401k. You don't pay any tax up front, but all the built-in gain, you pay tax on that plus the amount of money you put in to begin with. The Roth, you simply pay the tax up front and never pay tax again.
Why do more people not take advantage? Or maybe they do. I just feel like whenever we talk about income and retirement, real quick, RickenFinancial.com, RICKEN, RickenFinancial.com, or 314-207-6211, 314-207-6211 to reach out to Gerry, Heidi, and the team at Ricken Financial. I feel like we always talk about 401k as a main source of income in retirement. Why do we not talk more about Roth? Because it feels like that's a great opportunity.
We know, Mark, until, most people who are out there listening who are our retirement age right now, or planning on retirement soon, when they started their 401k accounts at work, Roth was not an option until Senator Roth came by and said, hey, let's create this instrument for people. And a lot of money is out there in traditional 401k. The employer match, if you are fortunate to have a match at work, that money has to go into traditional, even if you contribute to the Roth. So you will have, no matter what it is, you will have, if you started early enough, an amount that will be taxed, unless you do a Roth conversion. And Roth conversions are a whole nother topic we'll get into.
Right.
But what happens is a lot of people just don't understand what Roth does and what Roth means. And early on, we were all told, hey, this is going to be the greatest thing in the world. Pensions are no longer around. So pensions were when the employer was responsible for your retirement. You paid into a pension plan, or maybe you didn't pay into a pension plan, but they offered a pension plan to you. And a pension plan just says simply, when you're age 65, you walk out the door with your gold watch and a paycheck for life.
Yep.
So those have gone by the wayside. Those are as has the dinosaur. So unless you work for a public entity, if you're a school teacher in the public school system, or you're a police officer, you're in the government, you're a firefighter, a lot of the individual employers have gotten rid of pensions. So we were all told, put your money in a 401k because it'll be the greatest thing in the world. We didn't really realize what kind of a tax bomb was going to be at the end of the train. On April 15th, all of us have to have a deadline of providing the IRS and our local and state income tax entities the amount that we either owe or that we'll receive back our own money. So we have to do that with tax filing. And the tax filings can be very difficult if you've underpaid while you're working. Mm-hmm. You have to cut a check to the IRS. And cutting a check to the IRS is not ever a pleasant thing. And sometimes people get surprised by that because of maybe the way they were investing. And if that's the case, at rickenfinancial.com, we look at things very differently. We want to make sure that you understand how you're investing and what that tax really means to you, so you don't have a surprise on April 15th and have to cut a big check to the IRS. But when you cut that big check to the IRS and you're working, it's a lot easier than cutting that check to the IRS when you are retired. Because when you're working, those paychecks or those income streams from your work, from your business, keep coming in. When you're retired and you walk away, that income stream stops. So how do you pay taxes in retirement? Well, a lot of people don't like that, but taxes are a necessary evil in our community. We need to pay taxes. We need to do that as our
duty as good Americans.
Duty as good Americans, because we want the world to function. We want we want to have fund schools. We want to fund roads. We want to fund our military. We need to fund all those things to survive as a government structure. So, but it doesn't make it any easier cutting that check. Well, if you can cut a check and it's smaller rather than larger, would you like that?
Yes, sir.
I think most people would agree with that. If you can cut a smaller check to the IRS in retirement than a larger check in the IRS to the IRS in retirement, I think you'd like to do that. Now, how do you do that? You don't do that by just shorting them on the check. You don't do that at all.
Maybe.
Oh, no. They will actually notice that. If you overpay them, they'll notice that too as well. So they try to be as precise as they can, but we don't ever want to short our payments. We want to pay our fair share. We want to pay what we owe. But if we can design it so that we owe less, that's what we love to do at Ricken Financial. So designing it to pay less in retirement actually has everything to do with tax planning, not tax preparation at April 15th, that deadline. That's just saying what happened last year. We don't really care about what happened last year because we can't do anything about it. My mom always said, only worry about that which you can control. You can't control what you did last year. You can control everything about what you can do next year and in years future. Because one of the things we want you to do is, retire with purpose and live with joy. Living with joy means paying less taxes in retirement.
Yeah,
it truly does. So we may want to look at Roth conversions. When people say, well, I didn't have an opportunity early on in my career to have a Roth option at work. It was just a traditional 401k, and that happened with most people. Or the match that you had from your employer all goes into your traditional, not into your Roth, even if you're contributing to Roth. And those of you who are contributing to your 401k plan, I would encourage you to switch over from traditional to Roth. It will reduce your paycheck a little bit, but it will increase your tax-free income in retirement. So if you'd like to have that conversation, I mean, we have that conversation every day, but rickenfinancial.com is the best way to reach out to us and have that conversation, because we believe it's important to know what your tax is going to be in retirement. And we also believe, more importantly, that you understand how you can reduce that retirement taxation burden. So Roth conversions may be a way to do that. What is a Roth conversion? Well, a Roth conversion simply says you are going to withdraw money from your traditional accounts, whether that be an IRA or a 401k or 457 or anything that's been deferred, even an ESOP. So, and an ESOP is an employer stock ownership plan. So we use a lot of acronyms in this world, but we will also want to make sure that people understand what the taxation is, because that's the most important thing about any acronym out there. Is it taxable or is it not going to be taxable in the future? You take money out, you withdraw money out of those traditional funds, you pay the tax, then you invest it into a Roth so that in the future, all growth will not be taxable. And as long as the account has been open for 5 years and you're over the age 59 and a half. And speaking of 59 and a half, when you do this conversion, 59 and a half is a key age as well, because when you do the conversion, you have to pay the tax. How do you pay the tax? If you're over 59 and a half, that tax can be paid by the funds you're converting. If you're under 59 and a half, that tax needs to be paid with funds outside of that account. So funds you've already paid tax on. So that's the distinction there. But what we want to do is analyze where you are tax-wise, and do you have some room to convert things so that when you are forced to take money out of these accounts in the future, and the IRS will force you in the future to take money out of these accounts, even if you don't need the income, that you're not paying a higher tax rate then than you are now.
Got it.
And that's what a Roth conversion is all about, Mark.
So we're talking some of the big retirement acronyms that we talk about every week here on Kicking with the Rickens, but wanted to break them down a little bit more for you. So, Gerry, what's next?
Well, let's talk a little bit about inherited accounts, Mark, because, there's an inherited IRA and there's an inherited Roth IRA. What are the differences? Well, if a couple has IRAs, husband and wife, they have an IRA. Each one of them has an IRA. When one of them passes away, the other spouse inherits the IRA as their IRA. Nothing changes. Nothing changes at all. It's just the name on the account changes, but the tax structure doesn't change. You don't pay any taxes. You don't have to withdraw anything any differently than you if it was your own IRA. So it becomes your own IRA. What the difference really happens in the inherited world is, what if it's not a spouse? What if it's a child? What if it's a niece, a nephew, a friend who inherits that IRA? It's not your spouse. You inherit it from someone else other than your spouse. Let's just talk about in today's tax code. In today's tax code, if you inherit an IRA and it's not from your spouse, you have a maximum of 10 years before you have to withdraw each one of those pennies out of that IRA and pay tax on it. So a lot of people inherit these IRAs from their parents during their working years. Your parent passes away, you get an IRA. You have 10 years to take that money out. If it's a large sum, that money goes straight. It doesn't matter what the sum is, but if it's a large sum, it can pop you into the next tax bracket and force you to pay more taxes, which probably isn't what mom and dad intended, for you to pay more taxes, or for their money to go, more of their money to go to the IRS than to you. So that's what an inherited IRA is. So the difference between that and an inherited Roth IRA, an inherited Roth, you get to take the money and not pay tax on it when you inherit a Roth IRA. However, you need to liquidate that inherited Roth IRA over the same 10-year period. You can do that all in year one. You can spread it out over several years. You can do it in year 10. But on the 10th anniversary of the passing of the person who gave it to you, that's when all of that account needs to be liquidated. Then What do you do? How do you invest that? Well, that's a different conversation we can have. And we do that every day. RickenFinancial.com is your source for all those questions and all those answers, because we just want to make sure that you understand the tax consequences of everything that you do. So the Roth conversion is an interesting thing. People say, my gosh, I'm not sure if I want to do the Roth conversions because it could cause my Medicare premiums to increase. And that's called IRMA. IRMA is not your great aunt. It's actually the Medicare premiums that you're paying. And yes, that can cause your IRMA to increase. However, we do the analysis of how much is your IRMA going to increase? And do you want your IRMA to increase for 1 or 2 or 3 years while we're doing Roth conversions, or for the rest of your life when you are forced by the IRS to take money out and it increases your earnings to above the lowest IRMA rates, and you're paying that increased Medicare premium for the rest of your life? I think we all know the answer of which one you would rather have. You'd rather pay it for a few years, not for the rest of your life.
That's right.
So there are all kinds of things that go into these Roth conversion calculations. And we just want to make sure that you understand before you make a decision on a Roth conversion, what it means today and what it means tomorrow.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Ricken Financial LLC. Ricken Financial LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Ricken Financial LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Ricken Financial LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Ricken Financial LLC.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Tax preparation and tax advisory services are offered through Ricken Financial. These services are not offered by IPW and are not subject to investment advisor requirements. These services referenced are an outside business activity not offered through or supervised by IPW.